Yes. So, thank you for being on time. Thank you for starting this new venture with TOC, Driver Coaches, with the first experiential sharing and question answer session. So, just want to just reiterate this is a safe space. As long as you want it, we can keep the recording on. If you want to switch it off, always we can. And generally, yeah, make sure that when you're asking questions, you don't breach client, coach confidentiality. Otherwise, we good. It's just that I am not a subject matter expert, but I think my experience overall has been so far that maybe I can answer some of your questions. If not, the group can always come in, share group knowledge, share their experiences, and all of us can learn. So, Shri, I think you had a question that we wanted to start off with. So, go on, just share it with us, and we can get started.
Yeah, apart from the coaching manuals that we go through, what other resources do you refer to actually? Ashwini sent me a message saying that there is something on this in ICF Hyderabad chapter. But I'm not a member of any of the ICF chapters. I saw one exchange of communication between you and someone in that other group that Nikki runs. So that also leads me to another question, whether we need to be ICF members, chapter members to progress as coaches.
I think somebody else also had the same question. What is the advantage of having an ICF membership as such? And usually the membership would also evolve into a space where you work with chapters. I think chapters additionally give you that space of networking. If you have the ICF membership, there are some advantages. Again, it depends on why you want to take that membership. There's a reduction in the price when you take your ACC or PCC for $200, but I didn't see any direct outcome out of this, or maybe I haven't utilized it. So again, basically it comes to that point of how do we utilize something that's already a resource. ICF overall global membership is a definite resource. I would say I've been guilty of not using it completely. So you can get to work on your own website from the ICF. You can, if you have completed your PCC, put your name out there as a mentor coach. And then additionally, you get to host certain events that are part of the ICF Global Conclave. I think me and Yashaswini did that last time. And what else? Yeah, I think you also get access to certain materials that are only available for the coaches. But is it something that you don't get it outside? Without the ICF membership, can you grow as the coach? Absolutely. I think that they are two separate disjointed sets. You can actually grow as the coach in a different, with different tools. So for example, certain NLP tools can come in handy when you are using it in terms of visualization, in terms of, what is that, fly on the wall space. As long as the space is not getting into the therapy space, as long as you're not digging too much into the past, getting the client going backward rather than moving forward. So all those things can actually be used. I also use certain creativity based, say, tools wherein we're working not just with the logical side, but we're working with the creative subconscious of the client. It comes in really, really handy when the client is stuck and you can't basically advise or mentor or, give your direct feedback saying, why don't you do this? So in those times, it actually comes as a very interesting tool. I am developing my own tools. So most of it also helped by my own usage of metaphors in terms of my writing skills. So metaphors have never become a problem. I think when you move from say level 1 to level 2, one of the shifts that happens is actually the movement of how to explore the words that the client is using, what metaphors are happening. So at some point, you don't really need a how do I say it, additional tool for you to get started. What you would need is the right tool at the right time or the right exploration at the right time. So it is not mandatory for you to have these tools, but the tools definitely help. Where you can find these tools, I think there are many YouTube channels where you can actually find some of these tools in application. Google search, as like or our Vivek likes to do, is do a BARD search. It will give you some data, some details. You can actually work with some of those tools. I did an experiment with close to 100 hours of coaching without using any of those tools, without using any tools. And I was able to work with 100 hours with zero tools, like, nothing around strokes, nothing around drivers that are part of the TA, nothing around NLP. So just clear, clean, complete explorative coaching. So I have done a lot of experiments, so that is why I have some data around it. So it is definitely possible to work without tools in the conversation as such, but tools do help. When you as the coach are stuck and the client is also stuck in your say learning process, this definitely helps.
So Sunil, thanks for sharing that. But what would be some of the prompts to get these tools? I am still wondering that what prompts do we need to put to get the right kind of results, let's say whether from BARD or from ChatGPT, but we'll have to use the right right.
So yeah, if I understood right, what prompts do you put for ChatGPT is what you wanted to understand.
So basically, when you are saying that either we can go through BARD or let's say ChatGPT, whichever medium we are using, that is not important. But if we are trying to explore these tools, which can help us, work with the clients better and move from a stuck to an unstuck area, what are those tools? So what prompts do you write to get these tools? I mean, it could be a prompt for, let's say, Google also, because I have not really done any kind of research on this. And I am finding it interesting that there exists, some tools that can be explored by us.
I think there some part of your coaching training could actually help in terms of, what are the spaces that actually can get you tools. So you have TA, you have NLP, you have CBT, you have LOA, so, law of attraction, you have Meraki, you have, what is that, assessment based ones. So these are some of the broad spectrums. From there, you can be like, what is an NLP tool that can help me as a coach when the client is stuck? So you can actually start with the bare basics. You get some data, then you feed this. So treat it as a coaching conversation with BARD. So, BARD is giving you some data, put a question back. So generally that can help, or, that is how one of my other friends tried. I also haven't tried it fully as a explorative part because I am on this journey to develop my own tools. So, as a coach, one of the things that I tell other coaches is you have all the basic machinery with you as a creative person, as somebody who has all the logic, that you can bring your own tools to the equation. And with permission, of course, you can try it out with a peer coach and a peer client. And then after some time, actually get to a place where you're confident enough to actually work with the real client. My experience has been, I actually tried some of these, specifically dense metaphorical exploration. So somebody says, I have to find a key. So the next question would be, how's the key looking? What is the key unlocking? Where have you put the key? How much of a delta is it? So all those like questions that pop up at that point, trust your intuition at that. So even what I'd say personally is that, there is no need for you to look for tools. All tools are within you. So when you are looking at the client and saying, I am going to look at the client as somebody who has all the resources with them and is ready. So you are also equipped with all the right tools to actually find out. To answer your question point blank, treat the question conversation with BARD with some data around what is the space, like say which theme you are looking for, and it usually gives you a lot of tools. It will look for the web, something that somebody has said. There'll be some blogs that will come out, some YouTube videos. I think that's how the journey would begin, and then see which one works for you.
Thank you so much, Sunil. That is helpful. I will also, in the group, I'll put whoever knows more about BARD to share.
Yes. So Vivek Sundaram is the BARD expert. So just write to Vivek or tag Vivek, and he will respond.
Okay, that'll be useful for me also. I would like to know more about that as well.
Yes.
So I'm right now doing that only.
So this is
I avoid doing all this because it sucks you actually.
It pulls you, because that's a lot of world of data. So it goes in, you go in, your thought process is there, and I think the anchoring becomes as a part of using the tools, is that you rely more on the tools rather than your own abilities as a coach after some point. So that way, tool is a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just like Sunil, it is just like Google search only. Seems like.
Yes. A lot of structured answers come through the Google search. Google will just scroll the web, give you all those that matches the tags, and give you the space of exploring. Well, ChatGPT or BARD gives you it gives you an answer that you can explore a little later. So it is similar, but I think there are some distinct differences. But either ways, maybe just reflect on what makes you think that the tools is your fundamental answer to a client that is stuck.
Wow, I got some search here. It's easy, but I don't want to use it. Yeah, it's like a Google search. I did it just now when talking to you. I was avoiding all this, but yeah.
Sri, any other questions? Any other
I
reflections?
have, but I was wondering if you want to go by if anyone else has any. There is a supplementary question based on what we discussed now. There are two questions.
Go on.
One question and one possible remark. The follow-up question would be, I just want to know, when you did this TA and all, you mentioned that we should not be advising and all. I thought this was only restricted to NLP. Is this restricted to every other coaching method? I mean, in all coaching, unless you are doing a therapy or treatment, you're not supposed to be advising or counseling, correct? In coaching?
Yes. So the basic delta is that Sri, that in say, for example, 4 aspects. One is your consulting, wherein it's like a subject matter expert you share. In mentoring, again, there's a two-way communication between what works, what doesn't work. A lot of understanding about the situation. There is advice, there is suggestions, there's possible saying, I know this person, why don't you go and talk to him or her? So that is how mentoring would work. Therapy, again, you're going into the past, a lot of healing aspects. And some of it may involve even medicated prescriptions or prescription of medicine. While coaching, you believe that the client is in a space where they are completely aware of their self, they are looking forward to certain shifts, they want to move forward. And the framework is definitely defined around no suggestions, no advice. And maybe, you could also, at some point, if the client is really in a space where nothing is moving, what can be done is, what are your thoughts on, say, mentoring? What are your thoughts on, say, seeking help? So that's how you nudge. And you don't offer anything on a plate saying, why don't you take this?
Right.
That's generally the focus. And irrespective of CBT, NLP, TA, whatever techniques that you use, it's more of building that awareness, and then through that awareness, enabling them to see what are possibilities that can come. So not just so any other technique, even appreciative inquiry, all those techniques, essentially the thought process and the mindset is no advice.
Great. And the possible input that I mentioned was, how about the coaching lab in terms of resources?
I didn't get to what is the coaching lab.
Coaching lab is a hub of resources that, this institute that I did the NLP with, they keep referring to coaching lab. They keep posting material from coaching lab, the coaching lab.
Okay, maybe some exploration for me. I don't know. I will explore and maybe get back to you. But as of now,
Okay.
anybody else was
We'll simultaneously explore it then.
Yeah. So that's the group activity. So anybody who's using coaching labs can come back and share with us. So Sri, you're frozen. I don't think you have actually developed a juttu for it. So anyone else who has some experience around this coaching labs or something around it, feel free to share. So you are hearing, no? You are able to hear me? Yes, Sandeep is moving. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. I think she is stuck. So.
Yeah. So he had posted a question, right?
Mm.
Raman had posted a question.
Yes.
Hmm.
So he's back. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sri, yeah, you're back.
Tools are, so my take on tools is, tools are helpful when you are, they're like crutches you can use to walk. You can use to for coaching, but ideally, they can help you only when you are feeling stuck. But real coaching is going to happen when you are able, when everything becomes a part of you.
Right. Interesting.
So if I'm, so for me the major challenge happens. There are many times that especially in peers, the client is not ready to explore, or you feel stuck because you're not able to think of a question to ask.
Yeah.
Because so that is when I think some of these tools might give you a prompt, might give you a leeway. The only thing I use at that time is exploration of the word mainly. But I don't know. Sunil, what would you like to say on that?
I think when the client is stuck and you also are not sure, okay, what is the question? That's the most intuitive question at that point, because I refrain from using what is the right question, what is the most intuitive question at that point. So when you are in that space, I think, like you said, what is the word, what is the metaphor? I think, and even at that point, I think silence is a brilliant space. So you can work with silence, you can let that silence linger. So one of the few times I have used silence in a space where silence becomes too difficult for the client. The client says, okay, this silence is getting to me. And I then asked, what were you feeling in the entire process when you were fully silent? And that has opened up the arena for whatever was actually happening underneath all the initial conversations. Or so space of silence definitely helps. And also metaphorical exploration, even saying how you're feeling, what are the sensations that you're feeling in different parts of the body when you are experiencing the silence. And I think you also need to sort of maybe understand that space. Is the client feeling empty, or is the client on the verge of something huge? Is it a calm before storm, or everything that they had to say has been like basically empty? So depending on that structure, I think you will have to sort of, I think that's an intuitive call. Depends on the situation. You know your client to some extent in conversations. And then after that, you take an intuitive call whether you feel that the client has fully exhausted whatever they want to share, or it's they're holding back onto something that they're ready to push outside. So two silences, and you let the silence linger as one. Secondly, like I said, metaphorical exploration. So that can also help. And depending on, I think, you taking a call, whether the client is ready for something that moves them out of that space in this particular conversation. If they feel that they're not going to go ahead and they want to linger with this emotion, what you can do is ask if it is the right time to close, and if they want to come back at another time when they are feeling better. So
Yeah.
that can be two or three options.
Yeah. So, okay. So I will ask you, I have two questions to ask, and I don't know which one to ask first. But let me start with, I got a client who wants to get ideas on how to explore, how to get more likes on his YouTube. So basically it is like generating options, right? Right. It is not like exploring something. Uh, there is no exploration basically other than what he's done, what he might be. And I'm wondering, what you think can be done in these type of, so I could maximum ask what would it look like when everything has happened. So future oriented, yes, you could do. But I'm wondering, because the client did not get anything out of it. I think perhaps, some of these types of clients are actually trying to get ideas from you. And I'm wondering, how do you handle that in the coaching conversation?
I think that's usually a little of a tricky slope. You don't want to go into advice, you don't want to go into mentoring. You'd also want to stay with the space of what coaching is. So it is a tricky slope, but rather at this point, I think depending on the person, you can actually check in what makes this important for you to bring into a coaching space. While it looks more of a mentoring conversation. Also, tools wise, one of the spaces that you can look for is, I think, Meet Your Mentor is one tool that I had looked at. So, who are three mentors that you look for? Or if everything is for you like available, what is that you do differently? What do you think that are areas that are working for you? What are your major challenges that you're looking at? Are you able to look at them, identify them? Generally, Wheel of Life also can work. So what is working? To what extent is it working? Yeah, what should you stop? What should you continue? Like, I think it's a what is that? A tool that is very consulting-ish. What you let go, what you hold on to, what you continue, what you like to change. But the framework that you're using is continuing to be coaching as a framework.
Yeah. So, Sunil, and I tried all of these, but he was just stuck. Yeah, because Meet Your Mentor is my favorite question. And
Yeah.
So I'm feeling, and that is one of the reasons when I get this type of clients, that is what, has prompted me to that day to go to your creativity workshop, because I'm feeling stuck with this type of clients.
I think looking at the creativity workshop space, I think you can work with some of these picture prompts that can work, and also explorative on, I think even, I don't know if you can use River of Life at this point, but I think there could be some tools.
Which one?
River of Life. So I think that is more of a deep exploration aspect. So basically, what are the ingredients that are getting added to the space? What experiences have you had? But I think it'll slightly move to a point where it is more of a self-awareness exercise, and you'll have to bring them back to coaching. You'll have to take a slight detour and then work with them. Or even, I think at this point, Sandeep, if you have had many explorations with that person and continuously they're coming to the same point and getting stuck, maybe you can gently nudge them to that question, saying what's stopping you from getting a mentor. So
you from getting a mentor.
that's, I think, still sort of a directive space, but if it's continually in the stuck space, I think a gentle nudge around that area, I think, may open up different areas of working. Yeah. Yeah. Sri, you had a question. You are on mute.
The issue at hand that Sandeep mentioned was somebody wanting to increase the likes on YouTube.
Okay,
Now that I'm not on the spotlight, I can think better. It's only when I'm sit as a coach that my stopping level goes down. So I was thinking the client has also already experienced so we can probably explore from that point as to how was it? What did you get to get that like? And what do you think you need to up the ante, as they say?
Yeah, and I think it is a very interesting question, but I think it should not get into exploring the story and making the person feel more frustrated. Saying I think even DOQ works. So dialogue something quadrant. Dialogue operational constant. So there are four states. So one is the space where the resourceful past and say the required future, and the other two are not so resourceful past and not so resourceful future. So one is a place where they are getting into uncharted fears, and then previously they're going back to history where they failed. So you'll have to be very careful with the tool as to what is that they learn from previous experience. So has there been anything that's worked for you in the past? That's another exploration. But I think it's going into a little bit of a history, which we'll have to be very careful of. Yeah. But I think that what stops them from getting a mentor? I think that's a very strong question. If you feel multiple times that's not working, or I don't know if it's you still do it. So if I were to come to you with the same question, what would be your advice? You're still coaching. You're not giving advice. Yeah. So that could also be something that works. Again, it depends on the client.
If you were to give advice to someone, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. Yes.
So maybe I will bring that recording and play it with you.
Yes, sure. Absolutely. So, Meenal, Rania, hi, good to have you here. Any other questions? Sri, you had another follow-up question, no? Validation, something.
Yeah. How do you express your acknowledgement of the client's feelings or emotions without appearing to be validating? Or is it wrong to validate? First,
I think, can you give an example?
I can see how frustrated you are, for example. The client says, I'm very frustrated. I can see how frustrated you are. So am I adding to the misery? Am I acknowledging? Is that the right way to acknowledge?
So the client says, she or he is feeling
very frustrated, let's say. Yeah.
Very is always a very interesting catch. So again, very becomes a scale question. So on a scale of whatever, how frustrated are you? Depends on when this actual conversation is happening. What's the contracting? So how is the frustration affecting you could also be one. So I acknowledge that this is intense for you. Or I can sense that a lot is going on for you.
Okay.
Basically grammar, but you don't say, maybe it's also okay to acknowledge, say if they're feeling low, I can sense that you're feeling low. So it can be sense. You're still not validating that their own emotion.
Okay.
But there are questions wherein people will come to your clients will come to you saying, this is what I should do, right? So that's like an Indian slang. So is it right to do it? This is, I did this right. So you don't say yes or no, you don't say, right, you don't say not right. So I think there your presence as the coach will come. So a lot of them people use the yeah, tell me more. So tell me more is actually a fantastic question. So what makes you frustrated? How are you with that?
Great.
So
So tell me more what is happening.
tell
What
me
is
more.
happening? In
Yeah.
fact, even when I said this now, I was about to use the word exactly. What exactly is happening?
Don't use what exactly. I think also I hear so many people go with this thing. What makes this so important? So there's a lot of
Yeah.
tests on the so, and I'm like, if it is important, it is important. That is why I'm bringing it to a coaching conversation, right? So I think that's what your client will do. When they're paying for it, they're going to make sure that it is, at a space where they're going to maximize the outcome or value out of this conversation. Yeah. So
Great.
I don't know
That
if I
gives a bit of
answered it.
Yeah, it did. It is clear. When you talk out, like you do in conversation with the client, how the client feels. The same way we also feel when we talk out, ideas coming in. So you get a bit of ideas to how to approach. Now that will come with practice. The elimination of exactly will come only with practice. I can imagine, I can visualize, but unless I start practicing it, putting it into practice, it won't come.
Yes.
So I was very happy with what Sandeep said about crutch. But if we have time, I'll come back to that, draw a parallel with Toastmasters. Not
Yes.
now in the middle of
Just wait. Let me check with Rania. So Rania had raised her hand.
Hello, Sunil. How are you? Hope you're doing really well.
Thank you. All good. So
okay, I have a question. Actually, two questions here. Okay.
one.
According to the importance, number one, I have an issue with the time of the session. So in my certificate, I've learned that it's okay to have it from 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. As for career topics and all these things, so it's a proper time to just finish. So just it's just like I feel comfort in the time when it comes to 1 hour and a half, so that we can like reach this action plan steps in details, and then we are good when just finish or close the session. Yesterday I've learned that, and I don't know how much it's correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that ICF just said that, or it's one of its competencies, I believe, or something, that it has to be from 45 minutes to just 1 hour, which means that I have to finish the session in just 1 hour, which just left me feel confused when the client has something to say, and I have to close the session, or I just have to transfer the action plan to the next session if we have a next session, at the horizon, we don't know, we didn't agree on this. So just please tell me what are your thoughts about this?
I think, thank you for asking that question. So I think there's a distinction between what you submit to the ICF as a recording and what you do as an individual coach. So when you're submitting to the ICF recording for your ACC, PCC, or MCC, the requirement is a minimum session of 20 minutes to a maximum session of 1 hour. So 59.59. Beyond that, ICF will not take it for credentialing purposes. You as an individual coach, if the client is okay with a 1.5 hour session, whatever is based on your contracting. So if you're contracted for 45 minutes, if you're contracted for 1 hour, if you 1 hour, 30 minutes, that's a contracting between you and the client. So the ICF at that point has no say on doing it in, say, 45 minutes only, 1 hour only. No, there is nothing as per my knowledge around any direct competency that you should finish in an hour. So only when they are looking at it as a credentialing exam, they will not accept anything that is less than 20 minutes, nor more than 1 hour. So that is only.
So so I can put it in my contract, like the session will be like from 1 hour to 1:30, right? It's okay.
Yes, absolutely okay.
Okay, thank you so much. The second question, just related to the first question. Now, if I just want, maybe the time is up and we need now to close the session as the time is up, and there are lots of other things we need to discuss. How to just maybe say that let's do it in the next session without even guide the client on this matter now?
I think you will need to take a call as the coach. Do you have time? Does the client have time? Is it a one-off thing? Is it happening again and again? If it is a one-off thing, you may have a choice saying, maybe you check in with them, do they have half an hour additional, or at some point, one of my practices is somewhere around a 45-minute-ish space. I'm like, where are you? How's the conversation going? We have around 15 minutes. Is there anything that you would like to look at? So these are some of the techniques I use to sort of bring the attention of the client to say, okay, there's only 15 minutes. Then maybe they are taking a question saying, do they want to work on some of these action steps in another point in time, or do they want to work on the action points in the same 15 minutes? Do they want to continue the exploration? So you leave it to them at a midpoint check-in or a 45-minute check-in, or even a 40-minute check-in. So 15 minutes, maybe a little less that time. A 40-minute check-in definitely is helpful, saying, are we on the right track? How is this helping you? Do you want to work with exploration, or do you want to continue with the action items? Or how do you see that? So do you feel the exploration is complete? So some of these things as a question can actually help. But if it's, say, for example, 59th minute where the client comes up with something absolutely amazing, then you ask them what happened in that. Maybe you have another 5 minutes. You can let them know that, I may not have time. Is it okay if we can come back to this another time? I think in terms of the ICF ethics, when you're answering it in terms of a credential exam versus in real life, maybe there could be two different things. There's another client that's waiting for you, say, in the next 10 minutes. Now, there's generally I think a rule, not technically a rule, whatever I've noticed, but the client or the coach gets ready for the next session, is you using reflective practices after each session. So generally a delta of around 30 minutes between sessions is expected. But if there is anything else that, you have a pressing conversation to get to, you can always let the client know that, I understand whatever is happening, but we have only 5 minutes in our additional time that we have. Is it okay that we can pause this and come back another time? So I think it is definitely possible, as long as the right tonality is being used and the right wordings and the right way it is getting communicated.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, Sri. You're on
You have time for 2 cents from me?
Yes, go on.
Okay, what I have read is on Rania's question, that it is a matter of attention span, and also the client might feel exhausted. Though the client is asking for time, when we discuss problems generally, we tend to get more emotional. We tend to invest more time and energy on that. So that the client can come back fresh thinking, it is advisable to ask for a separate session. I would love to discuss this, but besides being professional, when I started my coaching, I was talking to someone. You said 1 hour. Why did it take so long? So I said the client was not willing to let go. The client, it's your time also. You're not married to the client. You need to respect your time. So correct. So a professional relationship will mean that we can end up in time. But like you said, yeah, we have to handle it tactfully. The choice of words at that time is very important. The client should not feel that we are cutting the client off. We are not interested in the client's betterment. But this is what I've read, that first is the extension plan. There's only so much that they can pay attention to. And the second is the exhaustion part. Because generally people come to you with problems. And there's only so much of discussion that can take place in a problem.
Yeah. And I think, Rania, what also could be a space, what she is saying, is it the client is looking for a space to rant, or is the client actually looking for a space to reflect? So sometimes, maybe depending on the conversation, you'll have to see. But if there is, if it is happening every session, maybe something for you to reflect. But as a one session where the client needs a little more time on the action space, ask if they have time. Ask if they have time apart from this. Check if you have time, and share saying, maybe I have time for another 15 minutes. What would you like to work with? Would you like to come back for another session?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Meenal, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I have a query regarding what Shri was just explaining about the attention span of clients. Now, what would be some of the indicators or signs which we can pick up, which will give us an idea whether the attention span of the client is more or less, or whatever it is? What are some of the indicators that we can, look out for?
Interesting question. First thoughts is body language, tonality, eye contact. I think general irritability. They just want to finish off this conversation as soon as possible. I think these are some I would look at for the first this thing. And also, how is the emotional graph between how they came to the session and where they are. So you have a indication as a client or a coach, or even generally, even non-conversation that's coaching, non-coaching conversation. You know when somebody is paying attention, when you don't, when somebody is not paying attention. These are some silent markers for you, saying, oh, they're there. They may not be 100% in. So droop shoulders, physical exhaustion, how you're feeling. So they may actually, like, you can actually, how are you feeling? They may say, okay, I'm exhausted. So that also could be like a direct question.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Sunil. Another question, which is a follow-up question, is how do we also identify whether it's a capability issue when it comes to attention span, or it's an intent issue at that point of time?
I think, like, is the capacity to concentrate or be with you at this point?
Yeah.
Versus, are they not willing to take on a certain topic?
Yes.
Have we touched on something? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how if you're confident of yourself as a coach at that point, your client trusts you, so you can maybe nudge them saying, oh, what's happening? So I observe there's a shift in energy from where you started to where you are now, or from, say, the last question, or whenever you brought up this particular conversation. There's a shift in energy. You become maybe more silent, more animated. What shifted? What's happening? Could be explorative at this point. Could also be, I think you can explore that area as to what is the shift in shift actually looking like, actually feeling like, where exactly in their body they're feeling that. I think when you're tired, generally your entire body is tired. But if you are in that space, a lot of the times there's a constriction in the chest part, or there's like butterflies in the stomach. Your throat is constricted. Your voice shifts. I think tonality, body language, major. Like, just ask. As long as you're not asking from judgment in your voice, in your intention.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you, Sunil. Yeah.
So you have something else to share, ask?
Yeah, on the same thing, I've not done a contract-based coaching. I've only done, pro bono coaching so far. We have not really got into a contract. So I'm wondering, when we draft the contract, if in the preamble, when we say, or when we brief the client, is it a good thing to tell them that we'll have a session of 45 to 60 minutes? If you think there's something that needs to be covered beyond that, we might look at another session, or will it tantamount to asking for soliciting another session?
Depends. If your intention is soliciting another session, which I don't think it is at that point. When you're basically contracting at the first place, you don't know how many sessions will go. Some contract for 5, some contract for 10, some contract for the entire month. How many hour sessions happens in that month is, depending on that. So there's a difference between the competency areas of coaching. There's a difference between the business areas of coaching. So there's a line that somewhere very subtly differentiates some of these. And I think it makes a good contract to say, okay, this is what 45 minutes to 1 hour, 5 conversations, this duration to this duration. What is the fees that you need to pay? What is the cancellation fees? How quickly, or at what delta can you transfer one session to another? What is the space if 3 conversations in, they're like, I don't want to take the next 7 sessions, they want to cancel. What is the contracting? The more better the contract, the better it is for you. So there are some some coaches who contract for 30 minutes. There's some who are contracting for say 1 hour. So it's you and the client as an understanding. And it's definitely a good practice, I think, to sort of mention it in the contracting, that a session is usually considered like this. There are some who consider a session even say 30 minutes. So it's an understanding between you and the client. And if it is on the contract, more the merrier, the better it is.
Yeah, I just wonder, what about the fees of the coaching session? I just need to know the average of the fees of the coaching session around the world, Maybe here in Egypt is different from other parts of the world. So what
Fees,
about
yeah.
India?
So fees, Rania, I think is a separate topic on itself. Again, it depends on the preference of the coach, the value the client feels that the coach also provides. It is again on that business angle. But from the ICF side, the space is that you as a coach appear or come to a conversation the same way you come to say a pro bono conversation versus whatever you're charging, say $10,000, $100, $200, $1. Your mindset
Mm.
going into that is all the same. But how much do they charge? I think is more of a space where your audience, how much is the audience willing to pay? Do they have the capacity? Are you already the subject matter expert that the client can rely on? They trust you. In coaching, maybe there's no need for you to be a subject matter expert, but there's a lot of perception that this person can enable me to get my answers. So
Yeah,
there's
yes,
that perception.
I just, the only thing that I know that of course there is a very big difference between like freelance coach and corporate coach. So corporate coaches will be like charge more than that, and the corporates are willing just to pay more. When it comes to freelance coaching or freelance coach, it depends on his or her brand. So as much they work on their brand, they can charge whatever they want, and people will pay. So that's why I just wonder, what about the other parts of the world? Because maybe I'm here in Egypt, I'm just like now a freelance coach, so I want to maybe work with other parts or with other clients from around the world. So how much I gonna charge them? Because if it's too low, they will maybe have this unconscious feeling that I'm not good enough, and if I just charge too high, they will say no, it's very expensive for us, so that we can take like local coaches or something, that we need to set this up. That's why I'm just trying to like making a survey or something. How do like other coaches from around the world just charge for coaching session? Maybe here in Egypt, just like maybe ordinary coaches like charge like $30 per session, some $50, some 100, some 200. But it's again regarding to their brand, not just how much they are great, how much they are when it comes to like gradations or something. No, it's just about the brand and this show off on social media. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're true. What you said is it depends on the brand that they've created. What is the uh, value perception from the client side? So they're willing to pay. How much is the client saying, this is my time? It's this is what it's worth. If you want to come along, you come along. Otherwise, not. But generally, it's a graph. So there are struggling coaches. There are
Yeah.
coaches that are doing excellent. There is one organization called Navgati, and Navgati had done a survey on how much a coach is getting paid in India, how much are they ready to charge, what is the general average, who are they coaching? Are they coaching companies? Are they coaching in companies?
Mm-hmm.
Are they coaching individuals? I think a quick Google search can give you some data. I
Yeah.
have the older version, but I think the newer version you can just find out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sunil.
Okay, so I think it's 2 minutes, so I will participate in some of the things that I told you. So if there are further questions, we'll take it in the next Q&A. Yeah. So how did you like this concept of the Q&A? Was it helpful for you? Just let me know. And also the regularity of frequency, I was thinking of once a month, but if you feel it adds value, maybe once in 15 days could also be looked at.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be
Sunil,
perfect.
yeah, please go ahead.
So Minal, you can go ahead.
Okay. No, this was very helpful, Sunil. I think keeping it open without any topic agenda is only helping because this is one of the first. So this was very helpful to get questions from all, from all ends. So thank you so much. And I'm sure there'll be many more questions that will come as we go forward. So thank you for creating this space.
Thank you. Most welcome.
Thank you, Sunil. It was great to have been attended here. Attendee, not attendant. Neuro-linguistic program is also about language. So
Yes.
I agree with everyone, Sunil. I think once a month, for me personally, once a month would be a good point. I don't know if others want more frequency, but because see, questions arise from time to time that we do address, especially in peer coaching sometimes. But I think in such a community where so many people are coming with similar questions, one really gets to think through and build on each other's questions. So I think it's a good idea. I love the idea, in fact, that we're having a thinking platform, a collective thinking platform where all of us can contribute based on our experiences and our own learnings as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, lovely experience.
Yes.
Thank you.
We can vote on the time on the group.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So,
I can ask.
right.
I can ask.
Yes.
Basically, I think once a month is also my initial thought process, because 15 would be like, for me as the facilitator, will get a little difficult.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think for you also, so this is 5 to 6 people at least. Itne to hone chahiye. Like at least this much of a crowd will help the ideation to begin, and I think with time more and more people will join. But if you start with once a month, there is something that we're looking forward to. Don't make it too easy for all of us. According to me.
Nice. Good then.